is what we need to start making use of what we call source first, and then we can get into transformation followed by target. Source data could be either from flat file or relational table or from even row generator, whatever source, that doesn't matter. But actual thing which matters now is what processing part, which means what kind of transformation that we are going to do within the data stage. So for example, let us say aggregator. So how are we going to perform aggregation that we get from multiple sources and get this aggregation data transferred to a target, which is going to be, let us say, sequential file, which means we are going to read the data from the row generator, apply aggregation, and start getting the data transferred to a target, which is going to be the sequential file. For that, get this row generator connected to the aggregator, and from aggregator to what we call sequential file. And now we need to start what we call getting each stage configured now. For that, double click on this row generator, which is going to be the first stage, and start building what we call columns. Let us say we have a C1 column which is of type integer, and C2 column which is of type, let's say, integer, and so but as we all know that in database there is a concept of group by, which means what we can use group by operation in order to group set of related records. For example, if we take telecom industry, where telecom service provider industry, where you will have different types of customers, like we have prepaid customers, postpaid customers, right? So which means, how are we going to group set of related customers? Let us say all prepaid customers should get into one particular group. Similarly, all postpaid customers should get into one particular group. And within each group, start performing different grouping operations. For example, let us say you have what we call a prepaid group. Within prepaid group, like what we are going to do as part of prepaid group, which means, are we going to use aggregation operations like count of or the number of records within a prepaid group. For that, we use what we call this aggregator stage. Similarly, if you want to calculate sum of the total salary within each group, which means what? So how much is the salary that is being drawn in one particular department? Let's say department number 1, 2, 3. Within that department number, so how much is the salary that will be given to a number of employees? In that case, we need to group the data based on the department number and start what I call summing of the complete data, which is going to be the salary. Based on the grouping key is what? Department number. And calculation is what? Based on salary. So that's what needs to be done. Now, we have just defined C1, C2 columns, and then start what I call performing aggregations based on a grouping, which means what? First, or the mandatory inputs for this aggregator stage is going to be what? Grouping column. This is what in this case we are using C1. Yeah? And then we have different aggregation types: count, calculation, and recalculation. Can you see here? Count, calculation, recalculation. One by one we'll talk. Let us say count rows aggregation type will be used in order to count the similar records within each group, and store output of this count to what I call one output, which we call CNT, right? So output column name could be of any type. By default, you will have this count type is going to be what? Double or decimal, which means what? Output of that count will be stored in what? Double value or decimal value. So that is what is the default output. Let me map this second port. We have what? One we map, which is what? C1, and second is what? Record count output, which is CNT. Now if you go and look at the columns here, can you see here double, which is by default output type for this particular what I call count output column is what? Decimal. Yeah? Now what we did, we are grouping the data based on the C1 column, and within a group we are trying to calculate the count of similar records. For example, let us say I'm trying to open a notepad, where let us say we have data like this 444 example, assuming that this is what C1 column, this is a grouping column. Now what do we need to do? We need to calculate count of similar records within each group. So how many groups we have? 1, 2, 3 and 4. Yes or no? And now within each group we need to calculate the count, right? So how do you calculate? So that is where you will have within 1, how many we have? Only 1. Within 2, group value 2, we have 1 count. Within group value 3, we have 1. Within a group of value 4, how much we have? How many records we have? We have 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you'll get what I call count of 4. So this is what you will get when you apply what I call count functionality based on a grouping key. This is going to be the C1. This is going to be the count. Yeah. So this is what the output that this count rows is going to return. Clear? Yeah. So once we do that, then we can say, okay. Clear? Now say okay. Once we do that, then we can get into the target and start supplying a file so that we can see the output in this particular target file. Yeah, I will create one. I think output folder created, I guess. Yes, we have it. I'll supply one SEQ out aggregation followed by count dot txt. So that's it. Now we have just supplied a file. So by default, file update mode is going to be the override. Yeah. So that's it. This is what need to be configured for the first transformation example, or for first processing stage we call in data stage context. Yeah? But in general terms, in ETL terms, right? We call this as what we call transformation, which is aggregation is a transformation because we are converting one form of data with another form of data. As you could see in this particular example, like we are converting 4 records with to one record, which means there is a conversion, a transformation is being taken place. Now we can save it, row gen, aggregator and sequential file. Provide these meaningful names so that it is easy for you guys to refer this later on. So that's it. Now compile and run. Compile now and then run it. Yeah, can you see here? There are 10 input rows, there are 10 output rows, which means by default, if you look at row generator in view data, you will have values 0 to 9, which means what? Every grouping value, 0 there is only 1, 1 there is only 1, 2 there is only 1. Yes or no? So that is why you will have 10 rows which are transferred to a target, which is sequential file. Can you see here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and so on till 10th record. Now we can go and look at the output over here, where in this output folder. Let me open that. Yeah, can you see here? SEQ out aggregation with a count, where you can see here 1, 1, 1, which means we have 1, 0, 1, 6 and 1, 1, 8. How many we have? 1, 5, 1 and so on, right? This is what you will see here. Now, in the next example, what we will do is, we will use the algorithm within the row generator stage so that we can generate duplicate data, so that you will see the effect of this count, in aggregation transformation. I'll just put here aggregation with different count. Fine. So for that, we can start opening this row generator and column. Select any column, which is grouping key column, and right click and say edit row, which will take you to the extended properties of this particular row generator stage, and select generator and type of algorithm that we are going to use, where we need to supply initial value, increment value and what? Maximum value. Increment is, let us say 2, and then limit is, let us say 5. So this is what we have done, 1, 2 and 5 limit, right? So now let me show that with this particular what you call notepad, like how the data is going to be. This is case 2, right? So let me so now here you will have values. Starting value is what? 1. Increment is what? 2. So 1 plus 2, 3. 3 plus 2, 5. 5 plus 2, 7. So it is going to cross what? The limit. So what will happen? Again start from the beginning. 1, 3, 5. 1, 3, 5, 1. Which means what? This will be repeated till it reaches the count of total number of records, which is 10 records, right? Yes or no? Because by default, total number of records within this generator is what? 10 records, right? And now we have used algorithm where initial is 1, which means starting value, and increment, which means 2, which means 1, 1 plus 2, 3, 3 plus 2, 5. Then maximum value we gave it to, limit we gave it to what? 5. So 5 plus 2, if we add 7, it is beyond limit, right? So what will happen in case of cycle algorithm? It repeats itself, which means it is going to start from the beginning again. So that's what will happen, which results in what we call having multiple duplicate values. Yes, sir. So let me open this. Here you can see how many ones we have. We have multiple ones, multiple threes, multiple fives. Here if you look at here, 1, 1, 1, 1. So there are 4 ones. How many threes we have? 3, 3, 3. There are 3. Similarly 5. 1, 2, 3. So there are 5 threes. Sorry, 3 fives. So we have 4, 3 and 3. This is what is the output. You should get it in count functionality. So which means we first group the data. Within each group we are what we call calculating the count. Now compile and run. Yeah, can you see here? Input data is how many? We have 10 rows. Now output is how many? 3 rows, which means 10 rows to 3 rows, because we changed the algorithm and we could able to see the effect of that within the sequential file, which is a target. Yeah, let's open this. Yeah, can you see here? How many ones we have? There are 4 ones. How many fives we have? There are 3. How many threes we have? What we call 3. So this is what we do as part of first aggregation function. But in case if you want to change the aggregation type to what we call other than decimal, we can always do that by getting into output tab, columns, and specify, let's say, integer, so that you don't need to see the decimal value with exponential or not. Compile and run. Yeah, it is done now. Let's reopen the file, which is a target file. Yeah, can you see here? 433. Now it is clear, right? Yeah. And this every field value has been enclosed with what? Double quotes. From where you will get it? I think we discussed about that in a sequential file where we have used target, right? Quote is equal to double. You would see over there. Yeah. Yeah. Let me open job. Yes. Here if you go look at the format properties, can you see here? Quote equal to double. Yeah. So because of this, we could see what is called double quotes enclosed for each column. Yeah. So that's about first aggregation functionality. Now we will get into other aggregations, like for example, how are we going to perform sum functionality? So let me save this to another job. Yeah. Instead of count, I'll use what it calls sum. Yeah. So then let us start building a logic for sum. Yeah. So input is same. We are not touching the input data at all. Instead, we are trying to getting into what we call aggregation types directly. Yeah. Here, instead of using a count row, what we need to do is we can start using a calculation. Yeah. What kind of calculation we are going to do and for which column we are going to apply calculation, that we need to select. Can you see here? Second column. Remember, for any calculation, we need to do what? We need to use one column for grouping, other column for what I call calculation. Yeah. So, for example, the one which we discussed earlier was, it is a purely simple what I call count. Now we have sum, right? Let's say we have C1 where we have values like 1, 3, 5, 1, 3, 5, 1, 3, 5 and 1, right? And 1. This is what is C1 column data, right? And we also have C2 column data which contains what? Default rows and values like 0 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5, 6 and 7, you have 8, you have 9, right? You have what? These are the values. Yeah. Now, the next is what? We need to start applying a sum, what I call as part of this. Yeah. So, let us say we have what I call a sum. First, we need to come up with like a grouping values. Within one, what are values? That's one, this one, and this one. Let us put a group here. Grouping is what? Let us say 1. Yeah? Within 1, how many we have? 1 with 0 and 1 with 3, 1 with 6 and 1 with 9, right? Now, so which means what? Within group 1, this is C1, right? This is what? C2. Now column for calculation, which one we are using? C2, right? Which means within a group of what is called C1, sum of C2, yeah, group by is what? C1, which is what? Sum of what is called 0 plus 3 plus 6 plus 9 within a group of what? Group of 1. So this is what you will see here. 0 plus 3 plus 6, 9, which means what? 3, 6, 9 plus 9, 18. This is what you will get within a group of. Similarly, if you take second group, which is 3, so same process we need to repeat, like how to, what you call, or how many number of records where there is a 3. So 3, 1, and then 3, 4, then we have 3, 7, right? These are the values. So which means what? This is the first one, right? This is the second one, yeah? And then what else? There is one more, 3, 1, right? These are the values. Now if you apply sum for this, sum of C2, then what do you get? 1 plus 4 plus 7, which is 5 plus 7, which is going to be the 12. Yeah? So this is what we will see the result of this sum functionality. So that's what we do with a sum. Clear? Any questions or clarification needed here? So you can just interrupt me and start asking questions so that we can fill these gaps easily. Yeah, now let me minimize this. So I've just explained the functionality. Now output of this need to be mapped to a target. Previously we dealt with record count, right? So let me delete that, and then now we have not used some functionality, right? Let's use that. We have just taken column, but what is that operation which is a sum I was trying to talk about? Can you see in the right side where we have different aggregations, sum output column. So now we can store output of this to sum out, which means what? Output of sum C2 will be stored in sum out. Now we can go to output tab and get it mapped to a target. Yeah. Now we can look at the columns, which is a double, right? By default. In case if you want to change it to integer, we can do that. Say okay, because data can come from even floating point values also, right? That's why by default it is a double. Now save, compile and run. Yeah. Now we can go to the run director client and see the status. Anyway, you can see green line with arrow indicates it is successful, but still you can see the data in the logging messages, like what is the status on that. Step by step you can see here. So yeah, here you can see all started, all that. Export complete. How much? 3 records. So which means what? 3 records have been transferred to a target, which is to a sequential file. Let's open the sequential file. Yeah, can you see here? 18. That's what we expected, right? For 1. Similarly, 3 we have what we call 12, 5 and 15, which means within each group we get what we call corresponding output, which is going to be the what we call output column. So that's what we discussed here. So here the sum output is 12, right? For group of 3. For group of what? 1. Within a group of 1, where we have what? Output is what? 18, which is 3 plus 6 plus 0 plus 9. Yeah? Similarly 5. So same procedure will be repeated in order to get the corresponding output. Yeah? Clear? Any questions here? Yeah. So that's about what I call sum output. So now let me just give a bit average, which is going to be the or any other what I call aggregation, which you can perform based on like what we did. We have talked about count, sum, right? Likewise, we have variance, standard deviation, maximum, minimum, and so on. So we can start building any number of aggregations based on this. Yeah? Now let us say save it to what we call some other job where we are going to perform what, let us say maximum. Okay. So which means you will have input data like what we have seen, right? Same input data, only thing is aggregation type, aggregation we are going to change from sum to maximum, that's all. Here we have sum, right? Instead of this, I'll just delete this. Yeah? Or we can have both sum as well as even maximum. Can you see here? Maximum. Now, let us store output of this maximum to what? Max out column. Yeah? And then go to output and map output of this to downstream link. Yeah? Yeah, that is done. Now the type, if you want to change, you can change it, or else by default it will be double. Yeah? That's it. Now in case if you want to display header in the target, what we could do is we can select first line column names is equal to true, you know, and say okay, that's all. Now save it, compile and run. Yeah, let it get executed. Now we can see the output for sum as well as maximum in the target file. So maximum means what? Let me just show one example in the notepad so that if you look at the output, then it will be clear. Yeah. For example, this grouping part is same. Let us take this example here. Group value is what? 3. So within this 3, if you try to calculate maximum of C2, which means what? Maximum of 1, 4, 7. Because C2 column is going to be the calculation column, right? Here you will get what? 7 is going to be the output. Yeah? Maximum of given n number of input values that it is going to return, right? Now similarly other group within 1, what is the maximum? 9, and within 5 we can see what is the maximum. Yeah? So 5, what is the maximum? 8. So you'll get output is what? 7, 9, 8. 7 for what? 3. 1 is going to be what I call 9, and other 5 is what? 8. That's all. Now let us go and look at the output. Yeah, we stored this output the same. Can you see here? Now second column is what? Sum output, which we discussed. Now we are focusing on max out. 1, which is a maximum is what? 9, 5, 8, 3, 7. So this is what they will see, the result of this particular aggregation transformation. So this is going to be the first transformation or first processing stage which we started today. So where we can convert n number of rows to, n is here is what? 10 rows to what? 3 rows. Yeah? which is what you can see here. Yeah. So that's about what I call sum output, sum and maximum and count output. Yeah. So likewise, other aggregation functions, you guys can start doing examples and start what I call coming up with what questions so that we can discuss on those questions. Yeah. Jai Prashanti Varganesh says, yeah. Fine. So that's about what I call aggregation transformation. Yeah. So one more assignment you guys can take. For example, let us say within a given department, let's say department numbers like a 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, whatever. Within each department, calculate the sum of salary drawn in each department. Let us say department number 10, how much is the maximum salary, total salary drawn? And department number 20, what is the total salary that is drawn? Yeah. So that you can try with one more assignment so that you will understand better. So you can start building what is a simple sequential file as an input where you can put department number and salary, 2 columns, and department number 10, 20, 30, 40, and salary, let's say department number, let's say there could be 3 or 4 records with the same department number. Yeah. So assuming that is going to be like an employee table. Yeah. So where you will have employee will be drawing salary, right, associated to some department. There could be n number of employees. Let's say 10 employees belongs to one department. Yeah. Then you will have what is called 10 salary rows, right? So sum all the salary rows belongs to department number 10 and generate the output, which is going to be the sum. Yeah? So I'll expand this with what I call by using different tables. Let's say department data in one table, that's a department table, employee data in another table, which is some other table, and join the data and apply aggregation. That I'll explain it when we start or when we discuss about combinable stages, where we have join stage, where we can join the data from multiple tables and start what we call performing aggregation. Clear? That is about assignments part. Now, when you get into other properties of aggregation, remember we can start building any number of what we call columns. Yeah. So if you have n number of columns, start adding columns and start performing any number of aggregations over here. So you can take one more exercise. Add 2 columns for calculation, 1 column sum, other column based on, let us say, count, so that you will understand better like how aggregation would be performed for different columns based on one grouping key column. So which means, let us say you have one is the employee number, second is the department number, third is salary, and fourth is, let us say, sum description. Now C1, C2, C3 we have. So take one of this, let us say column, department number is going to be the grouping key and calculated column is salary, and we can also use one more calculated column, let us say PF, or let us say gratuity, or some other column, add it and start performing what we call aggregation operations. One aggregation, let's say sum based on the salary, and PF is also again based on, let us say, maximum. Yeah? So that you will understand like how to apply different aggregations for different columns, right? Now, if you can try it out. In case if you get stuck with something, I'll show examples clearly so that you will understand better. Yeah? Now, there is a good option which you can see in the last, which is going to be the type of method or method of aggregation that we are going to use as part of aggregation. One is what we call hash, second is what sort. Yeah. So hash algorithm will be used in order to what we call grouping the set of lettered records where grouping of or grouping size is less. Remember, in case if we have many records, which means millions of records within each group or thousands of records within each group, right? Then we need to choose what I call sort grouping method because sort is going to make use of temporary disk so that we can group many records where there is no limit at all. Hash, there is a problem, which means hash has been designed for grouping set of lettered records where the grouping size is what I call less, which means the number of records within each group should be less. Yeah? So that is where sort aggregation method will be used for. Now run this particular job so that you can see the effect. Now we can't see the effect of sort method because here we have minimal number of records. Don't use this sort what you call method of aggregation for lesser number of records, but use this sort aggregation method for larger number of records within each group. Remember, yeah? So that's what I call all about. And we have other property which is allow null output. In case if you want to allow null output, we can use it, or else false. Yeah? Which means normally we handle nulls before we get into aggregation. So don't what you call perform aggregation for null data. Handle null and apply aggregation after handling null. How to do that? I'll show that some examples with null handling, what you call functionalities. Clear? So that's about what I call aggregation stage. Yeah? So with this we'll stop